So I've had a few people, by a few I mean like I can count them on one hand, ask for a little bit more information on this digital dash that I got, the Sinco-Tech Racing Digital Dashboard. It's China's finest all-in-one complete digital dashboard. So I thought I'd go into a little more depth into that. I'm going to try and calibrate the speedometer on it. That's the only thing I haven't tried to do. So I'll kind of walk you through everything that I've done with it. So this is it. This is China's finest digital racing dashboard. I bought this over the winter and installed it. I'll put the links to that video in the description down below because I don't know how to do all that fancy stuff in here on the screen. That doesn't work with me. But regardless, you can see how I installed it and a full breakdown of the unit. It came with everything. This is the DO-908. Everything, it was included, right down to the gauges, or not the gauges, the sensors for the gauges. The only thing that I had to pick up separately was a O2 sensor to pick up the AFR. Otherwise, it does everything from oil pressure, oil temperature, water temperature, air to fuel ratio, vacuum and boost, RPMs, volts, EGT, exhaust gas temps. It does that as well. I got it for $340 Canadian, shipped to my door, part of a Black Friday sale. I haven't found it that cheap since. You can look online. eBay has them, Wish has them, Geek, which is basically the same as Wish. They all have them. They're all relatively in around that same price. There's a number of different models. There's the 908, which is the one I got. The 904, I believe it's almost the same thing. The only difference is it's Bluetooth, so your screen is not connected to the receiver that you plug all the gauges into. There's basically just a wireless connection between there. There's the 903, which is just an OBD version. It's a little bit different. You get some different readings on the OBD version. It doesn't come with the air to fuel ratio. It doesn't come with oil temp. It doesn't come with oil pressure. It doesn't come with manifold vacuum and boost, and it doesn't come with EGT. So you gotta decide whether you want the ease of installation and not have half of the information, or if you want a little bit more of an install and a lot more information. Then there's also the 907, which is just a smaller unit. It has all the same options as this guy here. It just comes in a smaller display unit. That being said, this one says it's waterproof as well. It's the only model that says it's waterproof. I don't trust that, to be honest. I've made my head unit pretty easily removable, so when I wash the car it doesn't get wet. Anyways, that's it in a nutshell. I'll take you into the car and we'll take a look at it, how it fires up and what you can do with it. So the car that I'm testing the unit on is my dirt track mini stock. It's an Outlaw 4-cylinder, fairly built, suspension wise, chassis wise, engine wise. You can follow all that on previous videos that I posted over the winter of the rebuild of the car. It's all there. Will it translate to, say, a street car or something that's street driven? Maybe. This kind of just give you an idea of how the unit works more than anything. So here's the unit as it sits in the car. Not a whole lot of mounting options for it. It's basically got 4 screw holes in the back. So it's kind of up to you to figure out how to mount it, I think. It doesn't come with like a steering column mount or anything special like that. So you kind of have to figure out your own way to mount it. When you turn it on, it beeps and lights up. It's all fancy like. So this is basically your display right here. You've got oil pressure up here, AFR, intake manifold, vacuum or boost. You've got your water temp, voltage, oil temp, exhaust gas temp. The tach runs along the top, as well as these lights light up with the tach. RPMs are set on the bottom, and then that's your speed right there in the middle. Couple things you can do with it, with these buttons here, is you can change it to time, date. You can set your 0 to 60 race times if you feel like being a race car driver. You got your odometer, you got a trip odometer, and then back to RPM. You can set all the parameters by holding, you got your settings, your check mark, and then you got this X button here. So if you hold that down, it brings you to the menu, and then you just start by going around. You can set your language, the date, the time. You can set your units. So if you prefer imperial units, you can set it to imperial. If you prefer metric units, you can set it to metric units. You can set the LED, so that's for the tack. So I'm going to mess with that right now, just for the sake of this demonstration. So we can set it down quite a bit lower. We'll set green 1 at 1,000. Green 2, whoops, we'll drop it down to 2,500. Or yellow, we'll drop it down to, sure, 3,600. And red, we'll set the red line at a nice conservative 4,000 RPM. That way you guys can see the whole thing working as I'm driving it around, because I will not get it to 7,000 RPM in my yard. And then you've got set cylinder numbers. So depending on what engine you're running, you set it to 4, 5 if you're driving an Audi, 6, 7 if you're driving a blown up LS, and 8 all the way. It doesn't go up to 10 or 12. So if you're driving a BMW or a Ford Super Duty, you're SOL. I'll fire this thing up for you guys. You can see how it works under idle. You can hopefully see how the gauges react. And then we'll take it for a drive. So the instructions say to calibrate the Speedo. I just need to set cruise at 30 kilometers an hour and then press the calibration button. We'll see if that works. If you guys saw by my video, I might possibly have the worst mag pickup ever designed. The mag pickup I bought off Amazon will work perfectly fine. I don't know if my trigger of a zip tie duct taped to the torque tube will work very well. That's going to be the big experiment. Nonetheless, you guys can get to see this thing in action as we're rolling. Using a GPS speedometer app on my phone, I set a steady pace of 30 kilometers per hour. Once steady at a 30 kilometer an hour pace, I press the OK button to configure the speedometer. So there's the readings after a short run. Water temp and oil temp, EGT temp are still readable. That EGT temp drops pretty quick, so it's been sitting for a few minutes already. Well, I don't know how much information that really gives you, other than the fact that it turns on and it lights up and it does stuff. I'm pretty happy with it for what it is. I'm sure a real digital race dash like that is worth far more than the 300 Canadian dollars I paid for it. It does pretty good. Clearly my mag pickup did not work. Not that it needs to. I don't really care about speed on the track anyways. I can figure that out with a calculator if I really need to. But regardless, everything else seems to be pretty accurate. The only thing I have questions about are the EGT temps. I've come in after a race and it's 1400 degrees. I don't know if that's normal. For a 4-cylinder engine on pump gas that ran 5 to 10 minutes at 7,500 RPM. Maybe that is. I don't know. The probe is at the base of the collector, so I feel that's not very accurate. I feel that the AFR, even with just a stock GM O2 sensor, is actually fairly accurate from the carburetor, the way the carburetor is set up, to the way I get the exhaust, the way the plugs look, and then you add in the holes in the exhaust, because it's not a perfectly sealed header. I can tell you that for a fact because I built it, and it seems to be right in around there. So I feel on a proper system that would be really accurate too. The biggest downfall for what I use it for is just the size of the readouts for the gauges, like the oil pressure and the water temp and stuff like that. They're so small that they're really hard to read on the track, right? You get so much vibration, you can't read a little tiny text like that. They're accurate. The oil pressure moves so fast that even if I try and focus on it, it's hard to see what it is. I'm going to tie it into my fuel pump oil pressure switch, just so everything kind of dies if it gets that low on pressure. Maybe I'll put a light in there, and at least I know if the light's on, the oil pressure is gone, and save the motor that way. I don't know if I'll carry on using it, to be honest with you, just for that sake alone. There's a lot of money invested into this engine, and I don't want to take the chance of wrecking it. So I'll probably put some real gauges back in it at some point. And maybe this setup is best utilized in the old dirty motorhome. That'd be fun too. But regardless, for a street car or a street driven race car, it probably worked really well. The quality of the unit feels quite good, actually. The look and feel of the whole unit. Like I said earlier in the last video, RPMs aren't as responsive when there's no load on the motor. This thing snaps really fast. Even my old tack couldn't keep up with it. I find when it's on their load, it works no problem. Accurate readout for the tack. No complaints, really. I hope this gives you guys some kind of information. Dirt track suitable? Probably not. Fun? Yeah, I'd say so. Neat, looks cool, gets attention. Yeah, that's all fun. Next time you see me, I'll just be doing some pre-track prep and getting this thing ready for our big invitational race weekend. Looking forward to getting back on the track and having some fun. Gotta find out why I was getting sprayed in the face with water while I was doing the test run up and down the road. Should probably figure that out. Anyways, thanks for watching. This is stuff that I should be doing before I get to anything on the race car. Stuff around the house. I gotta cut the grass, take out the garbage, and clean the garage. My truck needs a lot of work. The wheel bearing, exhaust leak, an oil change, and I gotta figure out the death wobble. The dirty old motorhome. The tires balanced. Started building a trailer hitch. I gotta finish that. Gotta replace the blown up hot water tank that just blew up camping to celebrate my wife and I's 11th anniversary. Install the air conditioner, do the radius arm bushing, service the carb, service the trans, change the oil, the family Jetta, and oil change. Figure out how to undo the VW diesel recall crap. Family minivans got a list. I gotta convince myself minivans don't suck. And last but not least should be the race car. I basically gotta mess around with it. Calibrate the Speedo, maybe build them. Anyways,